Hi, guys. Welcome to Turning a Moment into a Movement. And I am J Love. I represent the Justice for Gerard movement. And if you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, www.change.org/justice for Gerard is where you can go and hear about his story, sign the petition, and share with others. But Gerard is my son who was wrongfully convicted of a crime that he didn't do. He was sentenced 2 to 15 years. He served 2 years. He's home now. But we're still fighting for justice for him. Gerard's story is just one in millions or thousands of stories of wrongful convictions. And so we come here every Friday at 6 p.m. to educate our community, our loved ones and friends, everyone about wrongful convictions, how easily they can happen, how often they happen, and how they can happen to anyone at any time. So I just want to thank you guys for joining us. We have a really awesome show today. We're going to have a really great conversation. And if you are a victim of a wrong family member that has a member or a loved one that's wrongly convicted, this is the show that you really want to listen to, because we have two great people who are out here doing some awesome work, and we have and they have resources and a book that we really want you guys to get that will help you on your journey. I didn't know anything when it happened to me. And so I am committed to educating our community about wrongful convictions and how you can get help. So thank you for joining us. And I'm going to bring in the panel and let them introduce themselves. And then we're going to bring in our guests. Thank you. Hold on one second, you guys. Greetings, Reverend Tia.
Well, hello, good evening. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm telling you, J Love, when you first told me about your situation, I thought about that today. And anything that's in the wheelhouse for me for educating, motivating, and encouraging others, then I'm all in, especially when it comes to social justice. I am one of the ministers over at team of ministers, wonderful team of ministers over at Transforming Love Community in Detroit, Michigan. And I also stand on many other platforms. Well, not many, because I don't want to be spread too thin. But I'm on the Social Justice Task Force for Michigan. I am right now working toward my PhD. I've done social work and all kinds of behavioral therapy with children and adults. So I'm excited to be here, because what's important for me is that this platform educates and it encourages and it helps us to come together as a community, because there's many people fighting out here, but this platform allows us all to come together for one cause with many issues that demonstrate that it's time for all of these constructs of inequity to come down. So I'm glad to be here today. And it's time. Yes. We were born for this.
Yes, you're right there. One of the things I wanted to say, yesterday, Trisha and I were to Lansing, and there was a rally for the National Organization of Lifers. There were a group of people, or a lot of people who was there representing the wrongfully convicted. There were people there representing the over sentenced, the medically frail. There were so many people in Lansing yesterday. And so I'm so glad that we are putting this forum out here to let people know that things are happening and reform can happen. Change can happen. We just have to take our power and get out here and voice our opinions. So I'm glad that you're here with me today. And welcome, Reverend Tia.
Thank you so much. It's time for change. It's happening.
Yes, change is necessary.
Yes.
Attorney Hugo Mack.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
Good. You know, I'm just still marveling over October the 2nd, when I was there at the wrongful conviction summit.
Yes.
And, I'm just thinking about, I stepped in there, like I said, I saw Reverend Tia's smiling face, regulating up at the front, and, and then Gail, her sidekick. And then I got up in there, and Allie and Trichet and our leader, J Love. I said, oh, good Lord, it's raining beautiful Black women up in here. So it was a wonderful thing for me. I like to lose my mind up in there. So it was a beautiful thing. I loved it. And, so I just want you to know that I'm encouraged. My name is Hugo Mack, probably the only criminal defense attorney in the state of Michigan, has office hours from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. And so, because as I've told you before, I represent the for real people, people you walk across the street to avoid, people you just give $1 to, hope they run away from you and all that stuff. Those are my clients. See, because when I was in law school, some of my African-American colleagues, they were seeking the Fortune 500 clientele and stuff like that. I just knew I couldn't do that. It just wasn't me. I'd be like one of them people jump out them buildings in 29 with the stock market crash. So I knew I couldn't do that. So that's why my career, I was a public defender for 12 years and private practice now, primarily criminal defense work. Former candidate for Washtenaw County prosecuting attorney, because we need to speak truth to power, and change will only come when people like us stand up, and go against the stream, So I'm proud to have done that and continue on and working with sundry civil rights organizations. We're working on getting an organization together known as the Greater Ephesians Freedom Council, out of my church. So we're working in that to try to be able to help the disadvantaged. A lot of my clientele, I want you to know, in my career, I've defended over 800 women that have been victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. Over 800 of them, So I understand the plight of the battered and abused woman, And the thing of it is, and let me say this, one of the reasons I'm so encouraged is because, you have a group of people of privilege in this nation, okay? And they pick and choose what cause they want to be associated with. Today it might be the cause of the downtrodden, of the Black and brown people. Tomorrow it'll be saving the whales. So what I'm telling you is that we need to have a consistency on what is most important to us. So a lot of my clientele are women who have faded from the headlines. They've got some groups in Ann Arbor that tout themselves as a 13th apostle. They're the only ones authorized to speak for battered and abused women. So if you're not in with them, you aren't there. And these primarily people of privilege I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But you see, when the money goes and the headlines fade, these women need a safety net. You see, they need pro bono lawyers like me willing to take their case to help them stay in housing, for example, to be able to have childcare, to have education, to be able to have some food, to be able to have transportation, and it's just a lot of lawyers simply are not willing to put themselves out like that. So I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm saying I see why God has brought me back from hell, which he did. I understand wrongful conviction, haven't been a victim of it myself, but God brought me back, restored my law license, something that had never been done in the state of Michigan before. So I give all praise, honor, and glory to God in that. You see, because just like Joseph, there's nothing new under the sun, saints. Things that we read about in our Bible, those same things are happening today. Mm-hmm. Goliath wasn't just back then. Each and every one of us right now has got a Goliath we confronting right now. Okay. Right. That has to be slain. So I understand, what it means to come back, and be able to rebuild through the power of God and Jesus Christ, for the betterment of myself. So, I'm in it to win it. I love y'all. I'm excited. And I'm a copy off of Edward Sanders' Broca for a minute. Look here. I don't care whether your problem starts on a boulevard, an alleyway, a parkway. If you want solve to your problems, you go and park on Mack Street. You'll be all right.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Attorney Hugo Mack. We miss Edward. Hopefully he's studying and he's checking us out. Right. So next, greetings. Hey, Allie.
Hey, how's it going? How y'all
It's,
doing?
it's going
Good.
great. How are you today?
I am doing good. I'm glad it's the weekend. It has been a long week, so I'm ready.
So introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you got going on, Allie, because you got stuff going on.
Always, yeah. My name is Alexandria. I am a behavior coordinator and therapist, as well as an activist in the metro area. A lot of what I do is, help those who do have mental disabilities, but also within the community, helping those from Black and Brown communities, those facing circumstances that they shouldn't be, and receiving unfair treatment due to systematic racism, uh, and just a system, quite frankly, that is not working. And I'm with Michigan Liberation as well as Accountability for Dearborn, but I see myself as an all-around activist, meaning that I don't, assign myself to one particular group. I help whatever group is most in need at the time that my heart is connected to. And I'm happy to be here.
Amen.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. So this week we're going to talk about the prison system, the state versus the federal, and things that people need to know with our guests. But Attorney Hugo Matt, before I bring the guests in, can you kind of give us an example of the differences between the state system and the federal system?
Sure. First of all, the federal system will kill you. Okay, I mean the federal system will kill you. Under federal law, there are certain crimes you can be given the death penalty for. Michigan happens to be a state where there is no death penalty. Okay, so and whether you believe in the death penalty or not, the reality of it is that there are some people who will spend the rest of their lives in jail without the possibility of parole. And one of the stark differences is in terms of some states will kill you or not. I'm sure you've heard about Dylan Roof, for example. Kill those people in Mother Emanuel Church. And with the person that killed those people at the that high school. I can't. The name of it escapes me at the moment, but killed 17 people and wounded 17 others. Now, the prosecutor was originally going to seek the death penalty, but this guy is trying to negotiate for pleading guilty in order to take the death penalty off the table. So in any event, there are some federal offenses that they will in fact kill you for, but you won't be put to death under any circumstances in the state of Michigan. So that's and each state is responsible for determining whether or not there's a death penalty or not. Another big difference in terms of the federal system and the state system are the sentencing guidelines. One of the great things that President Obama did in the federal system, and the president can only impact the federal system. The president cannot impact the state system, all right? One of the great things that President Obama did with his attorney general, a man by the name of Eric Holder, who was there with him, they addressed the sentencing disparities in the federal system between powder cocaine and crack cocaine. And the sentencing guidelines of what happened is that the people convicted of possession use of crack cocaine, primarily Black and brown people, I might add, were getting horrendously disproportionate sentences compared to their white counterparts that were convicted of powder cocaine. Now remember, they're both cocaine. They're both cocaine. Mm-hmm. But the problem was we had so many Black men that were just being given prison sentences 3, 4, 5 times the prison sentence of their white counterparts. So the reason it's important for me to mention that to you is because you've got to have a president, you've got to have an attorney general that is very, very sensitive in a federal system, to disparities in terms of race and class, and sometimes, unfortunately, even gender. So that's why I guess I keep harping on these elections have consequences. You see, because you had a person like Donald Trump, for example, when he had Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General, his thing was, we're not interested in no kind of leniency or taking into consideration race or anything like that in terms of these sentences. In fact, I want you to up the prosecutions, okay, which disproportionately impacted Black and brown people, I might add. So in the state of Michigan, they've got the sentencing guidelines, and all states now have in fact adopted them. And let me say this: the reason we needed sentencing guidelines in the first place was because there was too much discretion with judges. And what the Supreme Court found out was that judges were disproportionately sentencing Black and brown people to longer sentences for the same crime committed by their white counterparts. So the Supreme Court got together with the legislature and they created the Michigan sentencing guidelines, which are supposed to be an even keel. So, but once again, it comes back to the people that you elect to these positions. These county prosecutors play a crucial role in what charges a person has to come under the sentencing guidelines in the first place. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a prosecutor that's heavy-handed, that person is going to end up doing a whole lot more time under the sentencing guidelines than an even-handed prosecutor. So, those are some of the differences. There is a federal prison in Milan, okay, and then there are about at least maybe 25 state prisons, and we know the Huron Valley Women's Facility is obviously the women's prison, in Michigan. So.
Right. So we're going to bring on, with that being said, we're going to bring on our guest, author, Mr. James Jones. Hello.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Hi. Welcome to Turning a Moment into a Movement.
Thank you for having me. And I wanted to say that it's an honor and a pleasure to be on this show. And I feel like I'm amongst heavy hitters, so I have to bring my A game tonight.
No, well, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because everybody, just in case this is their first time hearing about you, let us know what you do. And then we're going to like the book and the podcast.
Okay. Of course, my name is James Jones, and I am the founder and president of a nonprofit entitled the Reinvention Center. What we do is we help returning citizens as well as at-risk individuals try to transform their life in a way that they can be more productive in society. We help them with all types of skills, including but not limited to life skills, educational, vocational, and we have mental health specialists that will interview them or give them sessions so they can address any mental issues that they may have, whether it be addiction, for any type of addiction. It's not limited to drugs or gambling or sex. We try to address everything and then build them up. That's what the Reinvention Center is about. Also, what we do is we advocate for individuals that have been wrongly convicted or harshly or overly sentenced, as the attorney before said. We try to equalize the system or make it equal as much as possible for the individuals that's in the system. So that is some of the things that we do. And as always, if you can look us up at the reinventioncenter.org on Google, and you have any questions or would like to get in contact with me, contact me via that website, or you can contact Miss Love, and she definitely has all my contact information.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your background, because you wrote this book and I want you to tell us about the book. But before we get into the book, tell us about your background before the Reinvention Center.
I was, I want to say 1991, 1994, I'm going to say it that way. I was officially charged with a 35 count indictment in the United States District Court. And I went to trial, and I was found guilty of 29 of the 35 counts that I was charged with. The charges stem from drug conspiracy to straw purchasing guns, possession of guns, use of guns, When I say use of guns, I'm not saying actually firing the guns. They're saying that I use the guns to further a drug trafficking crime. For example, if I have a gun on me and I'm selling you a dime rock, that is considered a use of a gun. I use the gun to protect the drugs or the actual transaction. Um, I appealed. After many years, I appealed, and on the 2255, I was successful in getting 27 of the 29 counts dismissed. I proceeded to sentencing on the 2 counts, which were 2924C counts, and I received a sentence of 300 months imprisonment, which is 25 years. I served 21 years, 10 months in various federal prisons on, I'm going to say, southeastern part of the United States. And as a result of that, throughout my journey of prison, let me say it this way, I've always worked in the law library. I always assisted people, helped people. I've taught after education, secondary education classes and created classes, curriculum for people, and was always helping inmates. Throughout that journey, I seen a lot of people being taken advantage of when it comes to the system. Not knowing is our biggest downfall. And the system says ignorance is no excuse of the law. They mean that. It's up to you to figure out what you're going to do, what needs to be done, and stuff like that. So what I did was I was continuously helping people. I'm only one person. They have other individuals like me, so please don't take it as if I'm just the only guy in prison that's trying to be compassionate and help individuals. That is truly not the case. However, it's only a few of us that was not trying to do it for monetary gains. We got compensated, for our time, but we were not trying to act as if we were attorneys in charge, attorney fees and stuff like that. Therefore, a lot of individuals had to go to other people, and I seen them being taken advantage of. They were being charged for things and services that they could have got for free through the institution if they just knew how to go about doing it. So what I did was, I'm going to say my last 3 or 4 years, I started putting together the book that I'm going to speak on later on to give all the information that can be handled free through the institution, and I placed it in the book. For the thing that's not handled by the institution, what I did was I wrote sample motions, put the rules, and gave you a step-by-step map on how to handle that, how to deal with that. I also included actual responses from whatever that topic of subject matter was. I included actual samples of responses, motions and everything, so you can see it from the beginning to the end. So of course I came home. Fast forward because I don't want to monopolize time. Came home, I started the Reinvention Center, and here I am today.
Wonderful.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome, Mr. Jones. So let's bring on our next guest, Lisa Riley. Hi. Lisa, you're muted. Hi,
me and technology. Hello, thank you for having me. Hello, everyone on the panel.
Hi. So Lisa, who works with Mr. Jones, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, where you're from.
Well, I'm Lisa Riley, and I am director of the Reinvention Center in Ohio. I've been very blessed by Mr. James Jones, which is the founder of the Reinvention Center. Not only has he been my friend, my mentor, he's blessed me on several levels to be able to help people. So I wear many hats. I do some reentry with the Reinvention Center here in Ohio. And then I also am an activist. Like Mr. Jones said, we will advocate for people that are wrongfully convicted and also people that have over amounts of time, juvenile offenders that are sitting in prison 30, 40 years. We try to help as much as we can.
Wow, thank you, Lisa. So tell us your background, Lisa, a little bit too.
Well, I was incarcerated in Ohio Women's Prison in 2008 for a drug charge. Um, I did not do 20 years. I did 18 months. Um, but at that time, I had an up close view of what prison was really like. And I knew then that I wanted to make a change for the women. You know, we hear a lot about the men, and, I play no favorites, but there's not much for the women, and I would hope in the future that I will be able to change that here in Ohio. I also have a loved one that's incarcerated. He will be home in 13 months. Um, so, when I started this, I started just like you said. I had no clue. I just knew things were wrong, and I knew it had to change, and I knew someone had to tell the truth about what was really happening. So that's kind of where I am now, and I can't. I want to say it's more a part of who I am versus what I decided to do.
Right. I know when I met you, Lisa, you were we met because you was advocating for the wrongfully convicted, and strong advocate you are, and I appreciate everything you do because you do a lot. I see you all the time.
Well, it's hard. It's hard for me when someone reaches out to me because I'm kind of soft a little bit, and and I want to help everyone. But how do you help everyone?
Right.
But it's hard because there's so many people that are wrongfully convicted, so many people that are in prison that should not be in prison, so many of these laws that shouldn't be. So many of these drug laws, as Mr. Mack was talking about with the cocaine and the crack laws. And the only thing that divides the two is some baking soda and water. It's ridiculous, So, I mean, there's a lot to do. There's a very lot to do. So I applaud what you do. And I'm so grateful that we can come together because in my mind, this is how it works is coming together.
Right. Because the people are the power.
Yes.
So we're going to go back to Mr. Jones. Let's talk about the book. Tell us the title of the book, the purpose of the book, and then we'll get really into the book.
The title of the book is Getting Arrested, The Insider's Guide to the Federal Legal System. As I told you before, I wanted to create a step-by-step guide on how to navigate through the legal system from the time you get arrested, even all the way to after you're out. So it has resources from the time you get arrested to help into the time you're out, where it can help you, where you can go to housing, where you get your information, your pertinent information, amongst other things. The book is self-explanatory. It's an easy read. It's not a textile type book. It's one that is kind of catchy. I have real life stories in there about real situations that has happened. I even have my situation in there. Again, I support it with any documentation. I'm not the type of person that I'm going to sit down and tell you something. If I tell it to you, I want to be able to show it to you. I adopted that when I was in the inside. So the book, it speaks on real life situations, and it also has documentation to support that. The book was written, as I said before, because there were so many people, so many of us that come into the system, and we don't know what to do. We're lost. We don't know where to start. So what we do is instead of trying to help ourselves, we rely on the attorney or whoever we have that's saying they're representing us to handle our situation for us. To me, I felt I was a victim of that initially, but then I said, when I seen that there wasn't going to fight for me the way I was going to fight for myself, then I became an active participant in my representation. Did I know everything at the beginning? Of course not. But what I did do was I applied myself and I put everything else to the side. Everything else meaning institutional sports, the television, the playing the card games. None of that stuff mattered. The only thing that mattered to me was learning and learning my case and being able to assist my attorneys. So um, applying the principle that I done, it had me write the book because a lot of people again don't know where to start. So the books give them a starting place of where they can go, and it'll walk them through every process. There's a lot of questions a lot of people ask throughout their journey in prison, and this book answers all of them. From a federal standpoint, it's a great book. I will say that the book also helps in the state levels. Even though it's designed and written to target the federal prisons and federal prisoners, it will help out in the state level because once you exhaust all your remedies in the state, then you go to the federal. You file a 2254, which is a habeas corpus to challenge all the rulings that was rendered on the state level. So eventually, we realize that individuals that's kind of more in tune with this realize that state law is derived around federal law, because I can cite a federal case in the state court, United States Supreme Court case in the state court, so having a book is one that I feel will help everybody. At the time I was in the federal system, so I targeted toward the federal system. But after being home and being out, I realized I may need to go back to the drawing board and give something for targeting the state, not no specific state, but the states as well. But, so the purpose of it was to stop individuals from overcharging our people. And the second thing was to give our people the ability to know how to help themselves. Because if you don't help yourself, you don't. And I wanted to say that one of the biggest factors I've seen in dealing with the criminal system, period, is we're intimidated. A lot of us are intimidated by the court system, and because of that, we tend to run. So I'm trying to, I am educating people with enough or giving them an arsenal to be able to not be intimidated anymore. Because we're intimidated because we don't know. If I know something, then I'm not intimidated by it. I'm more confident, when I get up and speak. So that was the purpose of the book, Ms. Love.
Right. And I was reading some of it last night, and I was looking how you even explain, each person role. You was talking about the role of the defense attorney, the role of even the person who is the subject of the investigation. They have a role. And could you talk about that a little bit?
As far as the defense attorney and the roles, I want everyone to know that there's always rules that must be followed by everybody. Nobody is above any rules or any laws. So the defense attorney has a role, and Mr. Mack can attest to this. You have the bar association that looks over your shoulder, and I believe it's the same thing for the prosecutor and the judge. They have a canon and stuff about what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and everything. So I wouldn't say that would be the first thing that I would look at, but I would definitely look into that as a person to know what I should expect from a judge, what I should expect from my attorney, what the prosecutor can and can't do. Yes, it sounds like it's a lot of work, but either you can do a lot of work and do a little time, or you can do a little work and do a lot of time. It's up to you. Go ahead, Ms. Love.
Oh, no, I was agreeing with you because you fighting for your life. So it's what you put into it. So if you don't want to put nothing into it, that's why I like it that you was explaining, even because we talk about the lawyer, we talk about the judge, but we don't ever talk about ourselves. Like we have to take on our responsibility as well in the fight for our lives. You can't just sit back and and think that somebody is totally responsible for it. You have your work to do too, because this is your life that you're fighting for. So I like how you split it up and you were talking about that, and you didn't omit the person who is, committed the crime or didn't commit the crime. You have a role as well. in this journey, in this justice journey?
I think you have the biggest role because you know more of the facts than anybody else in the room.
Right.
You know, a lot of the times in federal prosecutions, statement is different, but in federal prosecutions, I'm going to use myself for an example. I had 6 different law enforcement agencies investigating me over a 4-year period. This is what I'm told, so I'm telling you what I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
At the time they're investigating me, I'm between the ages of 19 and 22. So they're investigating me. And during this 4-year investigation, not one agency seen me break a law. They never got no drugs from me. They never got a gun from me. They never seen me with a gun. They tried to conduct controlled buys, which is when they send an informant to purchase drugs from me wired up and they're monitoring the sale. That didn't happen. So I was convicted solely on the testimony of individuals who were already incarcerated, got caught red-handed doing something, pled guilty to whatever it is they done, and then they came to my trial and said, "Okay, I done this, and I was getting my drugs from Mr. Jones, and when Mr. Jones sold me some drugs, he had a gun on him. If you ask him what type of gun was it, I don't know, I didn't see it. What color was the gun? I don't know, I didn't see it. Well, how do you know Mr. Jones had a gun on him? You know, because Mr. Jones always had a gun. You know, so you know, the thing about that is you have to be involved with your case. Some of the things that helped me, the witnesses were saying I was selling them drugs in the state of West Virginia when I was in the state of North Carolina or I was in the state of Maryland incarcerated for a misdemeanor. You know, so there's no way I could have sold them drugs during that time period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're saying that I was selling them drugs when I was in Columbia, South Carolina, in the hospital. You know, and I was able to win on appeal because of those documentations to show that this could not have happened. You know, as far as the lawyer, and this is important for me. I know Ms. Love, you want to speak on it. You have to help your lawyers, and I say that because the lawyers don't know. They don't care. You know, they're, you know, it's not their life. They go home every day, you know, so you have to fight for you. My lawyer told me if I went to trial and lost on 35 counts, the most I can get is 45 years. They offered me 30 years at 23 years old. And I'm saying, hey, I lived a long 23 years. There's no way I'm going to take this 30 years, you know, and it's 7 years more than this long 23 that I already lived, you know, so of course I turned it down. I ended up going to trial, and the minimum was 1,380 months. That's 115 years. That was the minimum. My maximum I could have got was life plus 85. So that was a 90 years or whatever many years off for this 45 years I could have got. So I was able to show, hey, this guy was you know, he was ineffective because he was, you know, when we were at the plea bargain stages, he was giving me erroneous advice, which caused me to pass over a deal that possibly could have gave me some freedom. You know, so if I'm not involved, and by saying, hey, I was here at this time, or I was in jail at this time, or I was doing this, then I would still be in prison. You know, so the book is important. The book points out the importance of you helping yourself. Right. You know, now let me get to the part Ms. Love like to hear. There's different ways you can help yourself, because a lot of times we don't have the funds to go out and hire this big shot attorney. You know, much as we love our loved ones and would like to see that happen, you know, we can't do it. Some of us may go out and get a loan and hire one, and then the money runs out. And then the attorney saying, I'm not doing nothing else until I get this amount of money. In this book, it explains that you can go to the court under the Criminal Justice Act, which is, you know, something that the fund that the court has to appoint attorneys and stuff like that, and ask that court to appoint this attorney to continue your case, and they pay for them under the Criminal Justice Act. A lot of us don't know that.
Right.
So again, these are the tips I'm giving you. Another thing that I put in here was, if you don't have the funds to even hire an attorney, you know, the best alternatives is to go to a law school.
Right. That's what.
And get in contact with the law professor and ask that professor to make your loved one's case a class project. So what happens is you have the whole class researching your loved one case with the law professor who has a law degree overseeing everything. So you're going to get a great representation from this class.
Mm-hmm.
And it can happen for free. So there's something to look at. Another way, if you have a couple of dollars but not a lot of money, I would suggest that you go to an attorney that you respect and that is about his business, and talk to his paralegal. And try to hire his paralegal to assist your loved one with their case. And I say paralegal. A lot of people may say, "Well, hey, it's not a lawyer." Well, paralegal do all the research. The paralegal read all the paperwork. The paralegal drafts the motions. The lawyer goes in and speaks on what the paralegal prepared. So in essence, the paralegal is the one who's representing you. So if you hire a paralegal, you really got 90% of the team on your side for a lesser price. So those are some of the things that I have put into this book. I don't want to give all my jewels up now.
Right.
You need to write a book.
Right.
But those are some of the things that are in the book that can help you doing that. If you purchase the book and you run into a snag and you need some assistance, my contact information is in there. And if I can help you do it, I help you do it.
And that's the cool thing that I heard you say on your show too, that people can contact you, if they have something, they bought the book and they have an issue, which I think that's cool because not everybody offer that, they write the book and then you on your own, but that's, I think that's great of you that you're doing that. You said something that really stuck out, and I wanted to ask Attorney Hugo Mack about it. You said something about when you were 22 or 23 and you had all these drug charges. And what you were saying, it just sounds so familiar about what's even going on today. So many we hear it every day, all day long. All these young kids are going to prison for these long terms, life, 65 years, and they're so young. And I want to, I keep hearing about the brain science of, and how the mind is not fully developed until you're 26 years old, and how all these kids are getting so long, lengthy sentences. And I want to ask Attorney Hugo Matt, does that ever play a role in anyone's sentencing? Does a judge ever look at that? The brain being immature, and because you hear all these things, and then yesterday when we were in Lansing, I was listening to a lady who went to prison at, I think she said 16 or 17. And she didn't get out until she was 57 or 58. And she was like, I went in as a kid and I don't know nothing. I come home and I know nothing. So, does the brain science ever come up in some of these cases?
Well, in 2012, there's the Miller versus Alabama, which addressed the issue of juveniles being sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And there was a series of cases after that mandating that juveniles that got sentenced, as juveniles to life without the possibility of parole have got to be resentenced. But see, the problem that we've got with that is, you've got some states like Michigan, for example, particularly in Wayne County, you don't have a bunch of people where the prosecutor is willing to say, well, we agree that there should be some kind of a lesser sentence here. So, yes, I mean, it is true. The science is there in terms of the development of the brain. But I've got to tell you what I run into a lot, and it's just a hard reality. When you've got someone that has been killed, and some of these teenagers, for whatever the reason, have committed horrendous crimes. And I see it all the time when I follow these resentencing situations. And you've got family members that are coming in and said, you know, hey, my dad is gone forever. Okay.
Mhm.
You know, so you know, it's a two-edged sword, because having spent time in the penitentiary myself, you know, there are some people that are quote unquote younger that I believe they would have done it whether they were 17 or 27. Okay. That's just a hard reality of life in a penitentiary. All right. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but you know, I do think that when we go for the resentencing issues, society's really got to ask a question. You know, if there's a particularly heinous crime, you know, does that person show that anybody can be redeemed? And I believe everybody can be redeemed. But you know, J Love and panel, I just have to tell you, the prosecutors, by and large, are not in favor of reducing any of these sentences when a person is resentenced. Some people have the misunderstanding that because the Supreme Court said you cannot sentence a juvenile to life without the possibility of parole without certain sentencing criteria, that means every juvenile that's serving life without the possibility of parole is going to get out. That's not true. That's not true. All that means is they're resentenced. The court can go on with that sentence. So I guess part of the problem that we have is that I think with these judges, and remember now, federal judges are appointed. You were asking about the difference between the state and federal system. Remember that. Federal judges are appointed. That is in essence a lifelong job, all right, unless you're impeached, all right. But these state judges are elected. And so, you know, in the state of Michigan, what was the advent of truth in sentencing was that somebody got out, you know, they earned a bunch of good time, disciplinary credits, and like killed some people, all right? And politicians made an issue of that, saying if this person had been locked up the way they were sentenced and not gotten all this good time and all that, my daddy would be alive right now. That was a skyrocketing political campaign, and Engler got in office on it. And so anyway, so what I'm saying is that we do need to take a close look at the people that we're electing as judges, all right? Because it doesn't matter how progressive a policy you have in terms of young people being resentenced. If you've got a judge that is more interested in being a prosecutor and a sheriff than a judge, then really you're going to have de minimis impact on these young people being released, particularly in the state of Michigan.
This is why it's so important in terms of wrongful convictions and in general, those with these, which is too many lengthy sentences. It's why it's important for us to act it quicker than later. It's why it's important for us to know about these resources, as you were talking about in your book, because, you know, one, you have people sentenced to the death penalty who are wrongfully convicted, or simply we don't know if they are sentenced to that. And then we don't know if they have been in solitary confinement, which increases the chances of them committing suicide. That is brain damage. And thinking about these things, you know, you have to think in a sense of it being life or death. Like, this is life or death. Like, this has to be figured out now, because at any moment, anything could change for anybody. I'm just thinking about, and you know, this isn't something specific to America, as we all know, this mass incarceration, things like that. But the over sentencing, the extreme levels gone just to penalize and not truly rehabilitate. So Singapore, for example, there is a man, Omar Yaqub, who was sentenced to the death penalty for having 2 pounds of marijuana. And actually, there was police misconduct that happened causing that. There was a forced confession and a threat from police officers that they would kill him and his father. So, you know, these are the kind of things that's happening every day. And to think death is the answer, like you get to dictate that this person has to die, is not right at all. We can do better than that. The world can do better than that. So I love to hear about these resources from your book, and just ways we can get ahead of this.
Let me add this to what you, Mr. Mack, has said. Um, when we think, I'm 29 years old. First, let me say that for the panel, and for everybody that's viewing. But in 1980, I read this in the book. In 1980s, we didn't have as much violence as we had today. When people had a disagreement, they would fight. It may be with a stick, it might be with a chain, it might be with something of that nature, but rarely wasn't with a gun. When you look at the technology that was out, the music, we start with the technology. These game systems, we had Atari, we had Nintendo, and the only game that had a gun with it was Nintendo, and it had a duck hunt where it was like target practice, shooting out ducks out of the sky. Then we go to the music. The music was more relevant, had more meaning. The spinners, and so on and so on. So when you look at today, fast forward to today, the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, you got Grand Theft Auto. I watched a young man play Grand Theft Auto. He stole a car. He shot out with he took the police on a high-speed chase. When they boxed him in, he jumped out and he was shooting with them, and you were actually seeing the police get shot. They fall, blood come out. He's blowing people's brains out on this TV, on this show. The music that we're listening to that's on this game as well as on the radio is promoting nothing but derogatory things. So my point in saying with the game systems and what's going on today is those game systems are dulling our youth senses. It's not uncommon for them to see somebody get shot because they play the shoot 'em up games all day long. So I think that it starts in our household. We have to stop these buying them guns. I don't care if it's a Nerf gun, a water gun. We have to stop that. We have to stop. If we buy them the game systems, we have to prohibit ourselves from buying these games that show all this violence to where they get to a point where they feel like it's natural. This is an everyday occurrence. This is what I see on the game. I'm mentoring I think he's 12 years old. A 12-year-old kid, and he has watched two people get shot, and it doesn't faze him. He watched the car ride by, hit a door, cut a dude's foot off, and it didn't faze him because he's sitting in the house playing these games, and he's seeing this in the game, so it's dulling his reality. So I think that we need to start in our houses first. You know what I'm saying, and then we can get to step D, E, and F and all that stuff, but it starts with us.
You're right. I want to add to that because I raised two boys. I never bought them guns. I didn't allow them to play with guns. They didn't have water guns. They didn't go over people's house and play with guns. And so, now as older men, they don't have, and I saw, as they grew up, they didn't have that desire and curiosity because they never had them around. And I think you bring on a valid point because these games are violent, that our kids are playing, and that they're very demanding, and people stand in line hours to get these systems and games and stuff, and they're programming. And so if you're sitting here for hours, and some of these kids do, and adults, they sit and play these games for hours and hours and hours. They're being programmed. The music, programming. So when you're right. So when you're shooting people, and just like I think just something happened this weekend, last week in Detroit, or earlier this month, where somebody just walked up to a person and shot him in the head. So when you have these things, and you're right, you're desensitized. You don't see it as, a human being. It's just like that game system again, right. So you're right. These are conversations, and kids are younger and younger are playing them. You can see 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, they're playing these games. And so
20 years of playing, if you start at 5, what is his mindset at 20?
Right.
Also, Mr. Mack, I agree with you. When I was in prison, I seen some people that I say, he need to be in prison. I wouldn't let him out. And who am I to say that? Because I'm in prison trying to get home. But, it was just that he wasn't as far along on the journey of life than I was. And he hadn't realized or recognized some things that I had recognized. But I realized that today, the kids it's so many kids killing kids today. right now. And a lot of people, I'm in Washington, D.C., and in Washington, D.C., at least 3 times a week, an innocent bystander that's a kid gets killed or gets shot. And the person that shoot them are 20 years old, 30 years, between 20 and 30 years old. And what do? They sit in their house smoking weed and playing those video games. And then they jump out with uniforms and don't take them serious.
If I can chime in for a sec, I'm so sorry. I agree with you, but my thought process is that as a juvenile offender, you have 15, 16, sometimes 14 years old going into these prisons. I actually know a gentleman that went in at 14 years old, and first thing was detention center. Now you're taking a child and putting them in this atmosphere, and they learned firsthand of how to survive in a violent world, and it turns all bad. I agree that there's people that commit these crimes that should be in there, but I also believe that preferably Ohio, where I live, get enough money per person to help these people, men and women. They get enough money to, why are they not tackling the mental health side? Why, in Ohio, you have to wait until 6 months of release before you release 6 months. Then you can go into a program. I don't understand that. So you have people doing nothing. But yet the government collects that money per person. That's kind of where my thing is, like, okay, so we have to decide, all right, even for the people that did something and is there, do we just throw them away?
Right.
Or do we find a way to try and at least give them some type of mental, because they may not be coming home, so that's, I really feel like the prison system has failed in that sense with the mental health. Let's not even get on the subject of medical and feeding them is beyond. Yeah, I mean, I don't, to me, the prison system is just a moneymaker. I am not for juveniles going to prison. I don't have the answer on what to do with them when they commit murders or vicious crimes, but I do believe that there should be some mental health in there. I feel like mental health has been pushed to the side, and we need it more than ever for men, women, children, elderly, all of us.
Oh, can I say
something? And go ahead, Allie.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and especially with the pandemic and stuff too, like you have them in there, and we've gone through almost 2 years of a pandemic, and they have to do that confined, alone, not sheltered, but just really separated, like just separated from the rest of the world. So any information they get is filtered. It doesn't properly get translated. I feel like, of course, they're failing with mental health, but for me, it's like it's not uncommon. I know that's because I think about the schools and how they're not even meeting the therapist to student ratio. Then I think about the prisons, and they're not even meeting half of that, what they meeting. So it only makes sense for that to be the way it is, unfortunately. But I guess I just see the pattern and how everything is connected, and it just needs to change.
Yeah, I diddle that. The thing about it is, when you talk about the effects, I mean, they have studies. I'm so tired of studies, because I'm like, we could doing all this studying. We have the effects of prison. What are they? Overcrowding, violence, solitude, excessive solitude, or the lack of privacy, being humiliated, lack of a meaningful activity, lack of dignity and motivation, lack of social networks or the ability to grow socially, increased insecurities. So when a person goes into prison, they even said that many times they come out worse than when they came in. They even have done psychological testing on some who have gone in, then they come out and they actually require more and greater support. So they know what the problem is. And a lot of it is the refusal of people in leadership to follow any type of written suggestion. They have guidelines. They're supposed to be getting mental health therapy. And I don't believe that the system, that correctional facilities can handle the mental health side of it. I think they need to outsource that to people in the community who are actually doing that work. I believe that it's a money game. I believe they want to keep the money. And it's time for us as a community to take responsibility, like was mentioned earlier, for our homes and for our children. And whether you understand it or not, whether they're crying for something or not, whether they want to be with the in crowd. J Love and I were discussing this earlier this week, and it doesn't matter what's trending anymore. What needs to trend is you taking responsibility in your home. I've raised 3 children, and I didn't allow that stuff in my house. Why? Because it's my house. Just because that is there does not mean that you get to come into my house with it. Just because it's on TV, just because it's in the media, just because everybody else is doing it. That does not mean that it is acceptable in my house. We need to be vigilant with our children. We need to be vigilant with what we allow to happen with the gates of our children, what's going in their eyes and in their mind and in their ears and what's coming out their mouth. I get very upset about that because we have handed over our responsibility as parents, and we have allowed the world to dictate what's going to happen in our house.
Right.
You allow, as soon as that child gets a phone, you open the world to them. When I was a young girl, when you called my house, you didn't know who was going to answer the phone. Oh, my father could answer the phone. My mother could answer the phone. If my aunt was over there, she's going to answer the phone. My grandmother would answer the phone. Whoever was there was going to answer the phone. If you asked to speak to Tia, you were going to get questioned. Well, who are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, what happens? You don't know who's calling your child. And that's not okay. That's not okay.
You're right, Tia.
Can I say something, Miss?
Go ahead.
When from a federal perspective, I have to say this from a federal perspective. I have been to county jail and stuff like that, but from a federal perspective, when I first went into the federal system, they have you in orientation, and they have a group of us because they do orientation once a month or something like that. So they have everybody that has came into the institution within that month. They have us in gym or somewhere, auditorium or somewhere, and they have us sitting down and they're going over it. And the first thing they tell you is stay out of my psychology department. And they, let me give you the reason why. In the federal system, you have guys that masturbate on the women's staff or try to proposition the women's staff a lot. So they tell you if I catch you over there, I'm gonna write you up. Are they saying don't go? No, they're not saying that. They're saying when you go over there, you better have a purpose for being over there. So now another problem I realized with the psychology department is a lot of people associate with seeing a psychologist as if you are crazy or you have to have something wrong with you. That's not always the case. In order to change your mindset, you have to do some type of psychological work on that mind. That's my opinion. I went to speak to someone once a week for years, and that helped me get through. So my we're saying that we need more of the mental health in the prison system, but it goes back to what I'm saying: accountability. We got to start with self. Our loved ones have to go knock on the door and say, "I want some help." If there's no need for it, they don't have to hire a bunch of staff. If only 10 people going, why do I need 20 staff members? But if more people go and is knocking on the door saying, hey, I want some help, or I want to be involved with this, or whatever the case may be, now they have to increase their budget in that area to accommodate the individuals that's going. So the first thing I've seen personally, that a lot of people don't go over there. So the ones that go, they go. The ones that 98% of the prison don't go over there. So we have to, when our loved ones go into programs or go to prison, if I'm advocating for someone, or they ask me to help them do a clemency or a commutation of sentence, then what I tell them is go to the psychology department and take some of those mind altering programs. Because just getting a high school diploma, that's expected. You're supposed to do that. They make everybody do that. If you do something else outside of that, vocational and stuff, that's great. But at the same time, you have to change your mindset, because I can dress you up in a suit. I can write you a beautiful resume. I can do a lot of things for you. But if I don't change that mindset, you're that same person in that beautiful suit with that nice resume. So we have to advise our family members, hey, get in that psychology department, take all the programs they have to offer. And that will make them have to hire more staff. You asked a question, Miss Love, do they consider the mindset of a youth at sentencing? In the federal system, it's called the 3553 factors, which is they're supposed to consider his age, his educational level, his mental health level, and any other skill or something that may make him a better person. She's supposed to craft that sentence around those 5 factors. There are 3553 factors in the title USC to create a sentence that allows him to get something to build him up in the area that he needs to be built up in. This is why they say, hey, when you go in, you have to take a drug program. In the court, and the judge is mandating this. And if you don't take it in the federal system, they're punishing you. You don't get no visitation. You can't go to commissary and spend the same amount of money everybody else get to spend. You can't talk on the phone. We get 300 minutes a month. You only get 100 because you're not programming. You're going against the court order. So they consider it, but it's not something that they're following through on. It's just a show. Let me say it that way, because how do you consider a 16-year-old man's mindset saying, okay, go into this adult prison and do this? You're throwing them to the wolves.
Right. And see, I want to say that when you look at these sentences and how long they are, and that I think with the state, I don't know about the federal, but 90% of them are coming back home. So if you're putting all these young kids in there, you're not doing any programming with them. They're not getting any mental health, or very little, then they come back home because they're coming back home. They're coming back to a neighborhood to, where they came from. You have the same problem all over. You're creating the same cycle. So is the prison there working, or is it just punishing? Is it just, keeping people in a warehouse state until time is up and then release them back with no skills, no coping mechanisms, no little or no training? I mean, I listened to this lady, and when she was saying, I was 16 when I got here, and I'm 50 something years old, and I came home and didn't know anything. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have, when she left, and all these things, it was new to her. And I'm thinking in prison is not working because nobody prepared her to come home. Nobody prepared her how to use a telephone. Nobody prepared her on what a computer was, or, how to shop now, what's going on, Amazon, she knew nothing. She came home like, a foreigner in a new land. So is these things working? That's why I'm asking about the mind thing and all these things, because they play a factor in all of this that we're seeing that's going on right now.
And Pam, Jay, I want to say that we've got they are contending with, and what people are starting to put before them now is that Eighth Amendment, which has been in violation even since it's been drafted. It was drafted in 1789. And so the Eighth Amendment says that excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. And yet we've got 2.12 million in the United States that are incarcerated, and over 40,000 approximately in Michigan. So I don't know when or who or how these entities will be held accountable for a violation that's in the amendment.
Mm.
It's a right.
Well, Tia, you're right. It is a right. Lisa?
I think she's frozen.
She's frozen.
No, I'm not frozen. No. No, I'm listening. It's all about the money. They're not going to prepare people. Okay, let me backtrack. They might have a few programs. They might do enough to get some funding, but they're not preparing people to have a successful life after prison. Why? Because they want them to go back. Because there's more money and there's more money. It's a circle. It goes around and around, and then they go to prison and they work for what? $1.13?
If that much.
If that much. Thank you. Yes. It's all about money, and it's horrible. You get to the point where I personally wonder, how much is one person's life worth? Because you think about it, it's everything across the board is about the money. The prisons are getting money. Then most people, we can't hire. You can't afford the great lawyers because that's a lot of money. And then it's just money. And then now you're a family member, and your loved one's incarcerated, and it costs a lot of money to feed your loved one, to clothe them, to keep them going in there. And heaven forbid, if you want them to get a real education, they got the option here in Ohio. You can pay for a private college, and as long as it's by mail. And now you're in debt for their college.
Right.
It's all about money. So, and I don't have the answers, but I believe that things need to be changed. Sure, absolutely. They need to change. There's no one answer, but I don't think you should not do anything.
Right.
Because that's how we got here.
Right. And you're right, Lisa. It's about the money. You made me think about, I spent so much money while Gerard was away. The phone calls. We rarely talk about that. The phone, I sent him the care package, every time it was allotted, I made sure, he had COVID. So I sent him extra vitamins, I sent him books so he can read, that was important. And pads so he can draw, make sure he had money on his, everything, because, I felt like he's been dealt an injustice. So it would be an injustice even more for him not to have the things that he needed.
Right.
So,
and if you don't mind me saying this, think about this just for a second, okay? You did everything you had to do for your son. You were there for him. Think about all the sons that are in there had no one at all. And so their way was result to, they're going to take it. They're going to beat that other person up and take it. They're going to steal it. They're going to do whatever it takes to survive. And that is the problem. Not only are the prisons keeping people, but they are making this world inside a prison next to impossible to even survive.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Attorney Hugo Matt.
Well, there's so many things I could say. but I want to deal with the mental health situation.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the problem is in this nation, we need Medicare for all.
Yes.
You see, because Medicare for all will give people who have mental health challenges a real opportunity to universally get help. Okay. But when I hear Miss Riley talk about the money, she's right. She's right. You see, because there are politicians who are driven by money and power who don't want some kind of universal health in this country. You see, there's certain buzzwords that always get a rise out of people in this nation. Okay, communism, socialism, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And that stems from the rise of communism, the end of the czars in Russia, the Cold War, where we were programmed uh, in terms of believing, the Russians, the communists, are the enemies. You see, I mean, that's what's gotten us in some terrible situations. Vietnam is the prime example. The prime example. Okay, we got involved there because we're fighting communism. All right. The Korean War before that, I know I'm dating myself. The Korean War before that, we're there fighting communism. And if we don't go over there and fight communism, all of Southeast Asia is going to become communist. Well, guess what, folks? Guess what? We sacrificed 55,000 American lives in Vietnam, and all of Southeast Asia is not communist. So what I'm saying is that when we deal, you see, look, white supremacy is really an art form. Okay, it really is a fantastic art form, because what has happened is we have allowed people to equate someone like myself, who believes in like universal health care, who believes in progressive movements in prison reform. They have labeled me and people like me, well, you are a communist, you are a socialist, because you want to destroy capitalism. You want universal health care, therefore you want to destroy the medical industry. You see what I'm saying? So what has happened is when people go around saying Black Lives Matter, well, you're an anarchist, you're a socialist, you want to destroy the social order. And so that's the art form that's been worked against us. And there's not enough of us pushing back and saying, no, it's not about me being a communist or a socialist. It's about me being an American and demanding that my country be all that it is supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, in terms of the mental health piece, we do need to address that, not just on a state level. We need to address that on a federal level, because if people could get the mental health treatment that they deserve, you see, then you wouldn't have to count on the police to give mental health treatment. Police aren't trained to give mental health treatment.
No.
When they get called to a situation where they said, okay, there's some gunplay or there's somebody acting out, those police come lock and loaded. Make no mistake about it. I've had thousands of cases defending people that have had interactions with police, all right? They come lock and loaded, all right? They've got a radio. If they need backup, they'll have 50, 60, 70 officers. If they've got to bring the state police in from other jurisdictions, they'll bring them there too to get your black behind. Excuse me. So what I'm saying is, when we allow politicians to keep labeling us as socialists, as communists, as anarchists, because we want the George Floyd bill passed, you know what I'm saying? Because we want these things done. We're not trying to destroy the social fabric. We're trying to mend the social fabric. But see, we've allowed other people to monopolize the conversation and control the narrative. That's why now, I don't even want to mention this man's name. That's why now there's a big movement to put this idiot back up for nomination again to be president. You see, and I'm sorry. So we need to address the issue not only locally but keep our national politicians going for Medicare, for all, and that'll have a big impact. People can get the mental health services they need. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right. I just posted we have to normalize mental health. There's such a stigma, in our communities about mental health.
That's right.
When you go see, someone say, well, you need to see a therapist. I don't want to see a therapist. I'm not crazy. Automatically, people label it as being crazy.
That's right.
But when you have illness in your body, you see a doctor. That's right. So when you have illness in your head, you can see a doctor. When your thoughts is not right, when you can go see a doctor, and it's okay, because the doctor can help you get back in balance. It's a lot of things that make you not right in your head. You can be drinking lead in your water. You can be, not eating the correct foods. Your pH can be off. You can be, just sick, period. There's different reasons why we have illnesses. And it can be fixed. You can get better. And we can have a better society if we normalize these things. Right. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. Mr. Jones, I really appreciate you.
Great to see you, brother. Great to see you, man.
Likewise.
The Growth Hour. Would you tell everybody about the Growth Hour?
The Growth Hour is precisely something that does what we are doing here. We bring up different topics, and we have a dialogue about it. A lot of times we try to, the purpose of the Growth Hour is to educate people, to bring information that people don't know about the system, about life, about anything. So we have a variety of topics. We don't just stick on the criminal justice system. We go into real life issues and talk about that. We showcase cases of individuals who have been wrongfully convicted, mm-hmm. and we dissect their situation and try to give them some direction on how to help their self in winning that case. So the Growth Hour is, to me, it's a family. It's not it's not a podcast. It's a family. Right. And I look forward to seeing my family members. We have it every Sunday at 8:00. It's live on Facebook. And also, if you are interested in being in it, contact me. I'm on Facebook on the James Jones, or you can go to the Reinvention Center. It's on Facebook as well, and you can DM me, and I'll make sure you get the link to come on the show. But it's, again, the bottom line of it is to educate individuals about a variety of topics. We don't want no one to be in a situation where they feel like they don't know what to do, or they're not confident, or they feel lost. Right. Our job is to help you understand every situation that you may encounter.
Yes. And tell everyone where to get the book, because really, you guys need to get this book. Yes, Lisa.
It can be purchased. It can be purchased on Amazon. You can, if you have a Kindle, you can get it on the Kindle as well. So it's not, you can get it on through physical book, or you can get it on Kindle. Of course, Kindle's cheaper than the actual physical book, but it can be purchased on Amazon.
So you guys get the book. It has so many good things in it, so many tools that you can use. Lisa.
I just want to say too, you can go on the website, the Reinvention Center, and get it there too.
So Lisa, any last words you want to, say? I really appreciate you and all you do as well.
I appreciate all of you. I truly, truly do. If there's ever anything I can possibly help with, please let me know. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And if there are people out there that want to get their loved one's story out, please contact myself or Mr. Jones, and we can work that out. I think you are wonderful. I say this, Michigan has the best groups and activists ever, hands down. The best, the strongest. Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
I said Lisa said that earlier, and I said that's because we have so much corruption and crazy. Right? That's just my person. But thank you, Lisa. Yeah, we do. I have met so many people that inspire me. That's why I'm on with these group of people, because they inspire me to go hard. What else? Revertia. Oh, first Revertia, before Revertia. Attorney Hugo Mack, do you have anything else you want to leave us with?
Well, first of all, thank you, Lisa. It's been a pleasure being on here with you. I appreciate you. You know, and you too, James. Now, James, you can go to James D. Jones on Facebook and find you.
You can go to James Jones on Facebook. Here, how about this?
You tagged in the post, Attorney Hugo Mack.
I'm gonna put it on the chat. I'm gonna put my personal information on the chat.
Okay.
And you can call me anytime, and we'll work it out. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Well, you know, brother, because with all due respect, James Jones it seems like that's almost like a John Smith to me. It'd be different if your name was like Thalamus or Suvala, then I wouldn't be so concerned about it. But you have a wonderful name, but a common name. But okay, yeah, do that. I really like for us to hook up. But look, I want to say this, brothers and sisters in the struggle. Somebody told me a long time ago when I was looking at the mountain ahead of me and stuff, you know, and that man told me, Hugo, you don't have to win forever. You just have to win today. Okay. And see, so that's right. And so that's what I want to encourage y'all in this. You don't have to win forever. Just win today. Just win today, you know. And when you go to bed, you know, and my prayer that the good Lord bless you and protect you and keep you as you slumber and sleep, you know, you get up tomorrow. What I do is say, Lord, let me just win today. I'm not worried about tomorrow. Let me just win it today. You know what I'm saying? And those todays add up, brothers and sisters, and eventually they're gonna add up, you know, and we're gonna win this fight.
Right. We're gonna have tons of wins every day. Have tons of wins. Before Revertia, PG asked the question how Gerard is doing, and PG, he's doing great. Thanks for asking. So with that being said, Revertia, leave us on a high note.
Okay. Wait, after I was so angry during this whole thing. But you know what? Let me tell you this. I am excited because right here, the power that's going forward right now, the power that was going forward all this week, and all of the people who have been on the front line of justice, I'm excited. And I want to tell you that no more will we will no longer put new wine in old wine skin. Okay. Amen. And that's what we are doing right here and right now. We are declaring that reforming the entire structure, not just getting rid of it and redoing that whole structure, because we want something new and viable that will help our entire nation. As people are able to be everything that God has created them to be, we help the entire nation and therefore the whole world. So I am really excited about this platform right now. And I want to say the fight is within. It's never without. Do your work and know that God is with you wherever you go.
Amen.
Yes, Revertia. Thank you. With that, we're going to say good night. We'll see you next week with another awesome guest. We love you guys. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Bye.